Good morning. Thank you for joining us once again on our podcast here on Morning Moments with Jesus. This morning, I'd like to just take a little time to recognize and pay tribute to old childhood friends. The hill here where my wife and I live is a very quiet and a very peaceful place. It's the kind of place that from time to time, the wind can whisper old memories to me. Because many years ago, me and my best friend, we used to run and play up here. We were just two boys, often barefoot and full of dreams, shouting nonsense and just laughing and playing until we could hardly breathe sometimes. And back then, it felt like that we had all the time in the world. Forever was just something we believed in. We didn't question, we didn't doubt it. We just felt like we had all the time in the world. And we were inseparable. Everyone said so. And we'd run around up here and we'd build forts with scrap wood. We rode bikes through old dirt trails and pretended like they were mountains. We made plans that stretched beyond what we could see at the time. We didn't know very much back then, but we knew that we had each other. And in a way, that was always enough for us. But it's a shame, isn't it, that life doesn't stay still. No matter how much you want it to, it just continues to move on. It starts slow, though. It just maybe a shift in the schedule, a new interest comes in every once in a while, maybe a new worry. It's the kind of things that sneak in while you're still laughing, while you're still playing, while you're still running barefoot. You don't even notice the ground starting to change beneath your feet till one day you look up and you realize that those trails that used to bring you so much excitement just doesn't seem to be the same anymore. We never did drift very far from each other, just enough to feel the difference. And still, there was always that bond between us that we didn't feel like anything could break. Even when we weren't side by side every day like we once were, we carried something unspoken between us. It was like a bridge made of shared jokes, maybe every scraped knee we ever had, maybe every late night talk we would have, just sitting in the middle of an old country road, talking about nothing or talking about everything. It was just a beautiful time in my life with an old cherished friend. But then that day came, the one no one expected and no one wanted to talk about, really. He was only 18 years old, and that kind of loss, it knocks the breath out of you sometimes. I remember the phone call. I remember the tone in my mother's voice when she told me that my dear friend was no longer with us. I remember the silence that came after that. And I remember how the world, which once felt so full of promise, suddenly felt quiet, still, and empty. Years have passed since then, many years. Yet some mornings I step onto the porch of this house on this hill where we used to run, built right here in the same spot that we once played. And I can almost see us still running, two boys running wild, chasing clouds, believing nothing could ever change. But sometimes I sit on the porch and I wonder what it would be like if he were here. Would we sit side by side in rocking chairs, sipping coffee, laughing at our old adventures? Will we talk about our kids and our grandkids, our jobs, maybe even our aches and pains in our backs and knees? Will we still believe in forever like we once did? See, those are questions that I don't have an answer to. Why was he taken so soon and I'm still here? Why does sorrow linger in our hearts long after the time has moved on? I've asked God those questions many times, more times than I could count, honestly. And God didn't answer with explanations, but he did answer with his peace. Because see, I think what I want to share with you in this devotion time from my experience with an old childhood friend who's no longer with us is there's a kind of peace that doesn't erase the pain. What it does is wraps itself around the pain. A kind of comfort that doesn't come from understanding necessarily, but it comes from God's loving spirit. And I felt that throughout my life. I felt it on the quiet mornings when the sun rises over that hill. I feel it when the wind brushes through the trees just right, and I can feel it in the stillness of a summer night. And sometimes God chooses to use our deepest loss to remind us of things that we might forget in the busyness of this life. Like how precious time really is, how love doesn't end just because a person's gone, and how the memories that feel like heartache can also become very sacred to us. And maybe, most of all, how eternity isn't just a far-off place, but it's something that lives quietly in the spaces where the love we once shared. I want to share that with you this morning because I don't know why my friend had to leave so soon. Probably never will, at least not on this side of heaven. But I do know that his life, even though it was very short, still echoes through these hills. And the laughter of my own grandchildren when they run across this yard. And the way I try to live a little bit more mindful, knowing now how fragile and precious a day really is. So I'll keep sitting on this porch, sipping my coffee, watching the seasons change and the sun rise. And when the wind carries the memory of laughter from the past, I always smile and whisper, I still remember when. Is there someone today, maybe a childhood friend who's still living, that you haven't spoken to in years? Might be a good time to just call them, send them a message, say I'm thinking about you today. And if you talk to them, I believe it wouldn't be long to at least one of you will say, I still remember when. Today you be safe, you be strong, and you be blessed. And you cherish each and every day of your life. And remember when. Lord's will, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.